This beautiful layout belongs to Barbara and Neal Kresge. They call it the JESTJAMO Railroad. No, that's not an Indian name. It's derived from the first two letters in the names of their four grandchildren, Jesse, Stephen, Jake, and Molly. Two walls of the room above a freestanding two-car garage are lined with custom-made display cases housing a tremendous collection of equipment. Shelves on the other two walls hold even more collectibles. Much of this equipment was collected when Neal operated a train store while living on Long Island in New York. To say that Neal's been involved with toy trains his entire life would be an accurate statement.
I guess it started when I was like a teenager. Built a small layout in my parents' back room. I used the 2026 locomotive and freight set that we had. Where that came from, I'll never know. But that's when I really started in the hobby. Before that, we just had our little American Flyer Champ, which is a Hiawatha tin plate, O-gauge, real small little set. Every Christmas morning, Dad would have set it up in the night, and there was like 5 cars, passenger cars, and a loop. It was maybe a 3x6, and he had that all mounted with 7 little houses, and they had lights in. And that was a big thrill. Every Christmas morning, you would go down on the floor and run those trains around. No reverse, nothing fancy. It went forward only. You just made believe you had station stops and so on. And that was, I guess, I was really impressed with that too, you know.
At the controls of his dream 14 by 22 foot layout, the master of this world views his domain. Although he's a serious collector with an impressive hoard of equipment including standard gauge, Lionel, American Flyer, Marks, and other desirables, Neal only operates DCS Proto-Sound 2 locomotives on his layout. While seated in front of the conventional control panel, push buttons, toggles, and other functions are conveniently placed within arm's reach. Upper level and subway tracks are operated from a sub-panel to the left, while lights and some accessories are controlled by toggle switches to the right. The layout is fun to operate, and it's a great place to escape into a private world of entertainment and relaxation. Out of his entire collection, Neal has one very, very special locomotive that is his all-time favorite. It's a Milwaukee Road Hiawatha. While he has a special place in his heart for all Hiawatha-type locomotives, this one is not the one he loves best. That honor goes to a beat-up, somewhat rusty tin plate version that most people wouldn't even bother taking a look at. But for Neal, this is definitely the little engine that could and did.
These are my favorites, the Hiawathas. They were an inexpensive set, made around 1936. And one we had was like a 5-car passenger, cost $5 in 1936. And no reverse. It was electric because they made them in wind-up and they made them electric. It was electric, but no reverse. You only went forward. If you went past your station, it was too bad. You had to let the passengers out after the station. Now, as I go up here, here's the one that was mine. And the last I saw it was, I'm guessing, about 1960. I didn't see it again until about 1980. I found it. It went from Pennsylvania to Long Island, and I found it at a flea market. And I know it's mine, and I proved it with my dad because he's the one that fixed it. Put this piece of wire in here, and that was the only kind of wire he ever had. It was like a copper-coated wire of some sort. And when he saw it, he said, that's our locomotive. And I said, well, I got it at a flea market. Paid $15 for it. Doesn't look too great. It will run. It'll run. But I would have given hundreds of dollars for this. The guy didn't know that, of course, but I got it for $15, and probably all it was worth. But that's the story. I didn't get the whole train. That's not the one, but that's the one that we had, just like that. I've added all these to my collection because it's what I like the best. This is the larger scale, the big O gauge. This is a small version. This is the more expensive, much more expensive. This would have cost like $39.95 or something back in 1936, and this was $5. So my parents had $5, you know, and that's why we had this set. but that's the one. That's kind of what got me into trains, I guess. Way back then, I didn't even know it at the time, but I think that's probably what did it.
A very unusual feature on the layout is real water and an operating water wheel.
It's just a magnificent thing, I think, to see this water running and making power to do something, to manufacture whatever they're doing with it. And I've just been crazy about them. So I've always said, when I have a train layout, I'd like to have a water wheel. I made a mock-up of the whole thing outside first before I brought it in the train room to see if I had the right, the right things going, the right kind of a pump. I used a pump from one of my fish ponds. I have koi fish, and I used one of those pumps. And I figured, well, it should work, but let me try it first. And I made a mock-up outside with some pieces of aluminum and so on, and got it working pretty good. Brought it inside. It leaked and so on until I found the right material to make it work right. I had tried polyurethane, many coats, still leaked. And then I read in one of the magazines, probably O-Gauge Railroading, that the medium gel was the thing to use. 3 or 4 coats of medium gel is what the artists use. I got it in the artist shop, and that works. It doesn't leak. It hasn't leaked in 2 years, so I guess it's good.
A look around reveals a large number of Divco trucks, as many as 9 or 10. As with many of the items on the layout, there's a reason for this.
I drove those trucks, standing up to deliver bread on Long Island, 1961 to 64. That's why you see so many Divcos. They're all different ones on the layout. The only bread company that I know of that had them was Dugan's. And they were called Dugan's Bakers for the Home. They were on Long Island. I think it was a 3-state operation back in the 1800s right up until 1965.
The layout features many operating accessories. In an unusual twist, a group of them have been linked together to form a seamless operating scenario. This uncommon practice makes a lot of sense, and it's a lot of fun.
On the top of the hill, which is really the Cass Railway, you have this sort of a logging camp and a log loader. I made that out of a coal loader. I took it apart, and made it to work that it would haul logs. Made a roof for it and a contraption where you drop the logs in. If it works right, that's the last time you touch those logs. You drop it in the loader, it loads onto a waiting dumping car. I have a Cass Railway shay, brings it down to the bottom of the mountain, dumps it off onto a Lionel conveyor belt loader, now dumps it down onto the next level, onto another train that has a dumping log car also. Now it's on the main level. It goes to the sawmill. It's automatically dumped into the sawmill, and of course the sawmill, the logs go in and they come out as boards. You never touch them again, hopefully. And 99% of the time I can do that without messing up. But occasionally I'll have a little problem.
Here's a cute scene. Anyone getting hungry?
It's made up by this fella, Action Animations, the name of his company. Greg Balmus, I believe his name is. Nice guy. And he made that for my wife for a gift from me backing up about 6-7 years ago. And it's a swimming pool that turns and there's people swimming around. I have a button on the side which the visitors can press and makes the smoke come out of the barbecue. He's doing the steaks. And of course it has to smell like frying bacon, which is the scented smoke, but it works pretty good. People like it.
Norfolk and Western steam locomotives 611 and 1218 are proudly operated on the layout, and for good reason.
Well, this is Roanoke. I'm right outside of Roanoke, about 15 miles, And they are the big ones down in the museum. You can see those in the Transportation Museum. And they're the ones, of course, that's, the Roanoke is noted for, the 1218, 611. Got to have those. You got to have them running, And so I do have them. I enjoy them. These are exact, 148. They're exact replicas of those locomotives. They're not like the early ones that they made years ago, where they weren't scale. These are scale. These are scale, and they're sharp. They're nice, with all the prototypical sounds of those locomotives. They're all there. The Agency Coffee sign, as well as Dr. Pepper, is when you're driving into Roanoke, that's what you see on top of the buildings.
These are the real signs in downtown Roanoke. Both signs have been faithfully reproduced and are prominently displayed. In addition to the two signs, there's another famous landmark on the Roanoke skyline. It too is represented on the layout.
That star has been up on Mill Mountain, which overlooks Roanoke. I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, I'm guessing 50 years or more. And it's been lit all the time, and it changes colors. They have red, white, and blue, but they also change it to all white. And that star is something like 110 feet tall, I believe. It's big. And it's neat. People come here to see the star and the signs and the museums and so on.
Another important object on the railroad is not a thing, but a person. A world-famous railroad photographer.
They just built a museum for this guy, Winston Link. He was like one of the photographers of the steam age. And so this fellow from Greg Balmus built that. And he sells them. I think it's an Atlas kit. And he has the switchmen inside moving and pushing the levers, and Winston Link out on the balcony. And of course, when you press a button, he moves back and forth and shows his flash camera lights. And it's kind of a neat thing. We added a car and some trunks to it.
The layout is made up of many different scenes, which together make a cohesive display. There are various operating scenes, and then there are static scenes, which tell their own story. The landscaping and scene decorating is well done, and you can tell a lot of thought and time went into it. Neal takes no credit and readily heaps praise on the person who did it all.
My wife, she does it all. If it were up to me, I would have had it painted green, the whole board, and that would have been it. That's about all it would have done, what it would have had on it. And so my wife, of course, got into that, and that's her thing. When she would be ready to build a mountain, she'd say, help me out, give me some structure here, give me some 2x4s or 2x6s, 1x6, whatever. Make the mountain, and then she'd go ahead with the screen and the plaster and so on, and she built the mountain. She did it all that. And if I tear something up, then I have to call her in to fix it up again, because she says I'm going to mess it up, which I probably would, you know. So, yeah, it's I'm very fortunate that I have my wife to do it, that she's interested in it and does. It wouldn't look like this. If it were up to me, it wouldn't look like this at all. Trust me on that.
Another nice touch are the lighted vehicles. Headlights, taillights, flashing police strobes, and fire trucks make for exciting nighttime scenes.
I didn't get them in there. I'm not the electronic guy, you know. A friend of mine, Artie Frank, lives over in West Virginia, and he's into that business. He lights them up. I have about 35 vehicles now lit. Fire trucks with all kinds of lights on, and they're great. I just think it livens up a layout, and I like them, and as does most people that see it.
The layout obviously delivers a tremendous amount of pleasure to the Kresges. Neal appears totally absorbed in its operation, so we'll just sneak out the door and be on our way as the famed Powhatan Arrow makes one more journey around this fabulous miniature world.